Greetings and welcome to America's Talking, powered by the Center Square. I'm Dan McCaleb, executive editor of the Center Square Newswire service. We are approaching the 40th day of the federal government shutdown, already the longest in U.S. history, and more taxpayers are starting to feel the impact. With air traffic controllers and Transportation Security Administration officers going unpaid for more than a month, the Federal Aviation Administration said this week it is reducing air traffic by 10% at the country's 40 largest airports ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday. Joining me to discuss this is the Center Square's congressional reporter, Therese Boudreau. Therese, a new poll shows that nearly half of Americans have felt some impact from the shutdown, and there still seems like there's no end in sight. Tell us the latest.
Well, it's not surprising that roughly half have felt something due to the shutdown because, like you said, it is the longest of any appropriations lapse we have had in American history. It's Friday morning right now, and that marks the 38th day of the shutdown, the longest we've ever had before. This is 35 days. So you've had a lot of government services closed for all that time. The SNAP funding, that's a big crisis right now because there's about, I think, half the funding available for SNAP, and that was only after the administration dipped into emergency funds. So the 42 million people on food stamps you only have about half the amount for the month they normally would have. And then, as you were saying, the latest thing is these snags in air travel. So because the government shut down, air traffic controllers, other workers for the Federal Aviation Administration, they haven't been paid this entire time. So yesterday, actually, air traffic controllers missed their second full paycheck. But they still have, rent or mortgages to pay. They still have families to support. And they haven't even been able to go out and look for odd jobs like other federal workers who aren't considered essential, who are just furloughed without pay. But they've had to go into work day in, day out without pay. So a lot of them now have just reached a breaking point and have had to call in sick and, again, go do some odd jobs, drive for Uber, things like that. Secretary Sean Duffy was saying. And so we're seeing these delays and these cancellations because there's simply less staffing at airports. And so they can't have the same volume that they have been. And so today actually is the day where 40 major U.S. airports are going to start specifically intentionally cutting back the number of flights by 10%. That they're doing, because they just, Secretary Duffy was saying we have to keep the airspaces safe. And so that's going to impact, we've already seen hundreds and thousands even of delays and sometimes hundreds of cancellations for flights going into, out of, or within the U.S. And with this mandatory cutback, we're going to be seeing so many more. There's, again, I'm not surprised that people are feeling this because this is impacting people all across the country.
And there's no scheduled vote today in the Senate. Of course, just as a quick rehash, the House passed, the U.S. House in September passed a continuing resolution to keep the government funded at past levels. No new major political issues that were put in there. It's just keeping the government funded at past levels. The Senate has not been able to pass it. Democrats in the Senate are holding out, wanting to extend Obamacare tax subsidies going forward. Republicans in the Senate are saying, we'll do that next. Let's get this government funded. But now what the bill that the House passed was meant to extend government funding into mid to late November. So the House is going to have to come back really and get back to work and pass a new either continuing resolution or these 12 appropriations bills. It just, I don't see an end game here.
Yeah, it is looking pretty bad. I know House Speaker Mike Johnson he hasn't had the House in session this entire time. They have a lot of lawmakers have been on the Hill and doing press conferences, including Johnson himself, but he hasn't called the House back into session because he wanted it to be clear, look, we've done our job. He said this, we've done our job. we passed this clean continuing resolution. We're not, there's no poison pills we can take out of this. This is a nonpartisan bill, so just vote for it. And that was Republican strategy in the beginning, because again, no one expected it to go on this long. But at this point, the original time frame of that continuing resolution, of that CR that would keep government funding on cruise control, essentially, that time frame is just narrowed considerably because, this is week 6, week 5 of the shutdown. So the remaining time left, even if it passed today, would not be enough time for lawmakers to finish the normal appropriations process, like they wanted to. So yes, it's looking highly likely that, if not inevitable, that the House is going to have to come back, so that they can either pass a new CR that the Senate drafts, or so that they can draft a CR, that the Senate passes. Essentially, they're going to have to come back to put a stamp of approval on something, to get it to the president. But again, right now, there are discussions that, there are reports that there are discussions going on behind closed doors, that some rank and file members are trying to reach some kind of compromise with the Obamacare premium tax credits that are going to expire. That's the big thing that Democrats have been holding out for. But so there, I know there is some hope in different. There are some people expressing hope. But there's really nothing concrete yet. It's you got to wonder what's going to be the breaking point, I guess, for lawmakers. At this point, I think Democrats have dug themselves in so deep that they can't fold now. Essentially, is the thinking. Like, we have to get some kind of concessions. We can't just say, okay, we've held out since October 1st. And, now we're just going to give in. I think that would be a very distasteful option for them. They, said that themselves. We're not just going to back down right now. So it's, again, right now there's a lot of backdoor discussions going on. There's not a whole lot of things we can point to and say, look, this is the off ramp. But, hopefully they do, because this is impacting a lot of people. And Secretary Duffy was saying that, this is just going to look worse and worse as the holiday rush comes on, and so many, millions and millions of people need to get home or travel someplace for Thanksgiving. And I mean, hopefully not. We can hope that after, it doesn't reach that long, but even after that, they need to act now, essentially. Is that there's unions, there's organizations, everyone's calling for Congress to act now. So we'll have to see whether or not they do that.
Therese, thank you for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this ongoing governmental shutdown story at thecentersquare.com.